What if the universe hasn't been ignoring your desires, but reflecting your doubts? Not because you're asking for too much, but because somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice still believes you're not worthy, not of love, not of peace, not of success, of anything. And so, like many, you search outward, you chase after validation, after approval, after the next thing that might finally make you feel whole. But the truth, as Buddhism gently teaches, is that what you seek is already within you. The moment you stop striving and begin to accept yourself completely, not to fix, not to change, but simply to love, that's when everything begins to shift. Life flows not toward desperation, but toward stillness. And stillness begins with self-love. You are not separate from the world you live in. The energy you carry within becomes the mirror the world holds up to you. If your heart is heavy with self-doubt, that's what echoes back. But if your energy radiates quiet confidence, compassion, and acceptance, the world softens in return. Ask yourself, what are you really calling in? Is it love or the fear of not being enough? Is it calm respect for who you are or the loud noise of needing to be seen? In this video, we'll explore timeless Buddhist teachings that reveal how true self-love, rooted in mindfulness and awareness, can transform not only how you see yourself, but how life responds to you. And if you stay until the end, you'll discover a rare spiritual insight, a truth hidden in plain sight that quietly reshapes everything when you truly understand it. Before we begin, take a breath and subscribe to this channel. Think of it as a quiet space carved out just for you, a place of reflection, clarity, and gentle wisdom drawn from the heart of Buddhist philosophy. Now, let's begin. Lesson 1. Stillness attracts, chasing repels. Have you ever noticed how the things you run after seem to slip further away? The more you strive, the more peace, love, or success feels just out of reach. Buddhism teaches us that this is not coincidence, it is reflection. The one who chases the world forgets the stillness that draws it in. When your heart is unsettled, when your energy comes from fear or emptiness, the universe mirrors that back, not as punishment, but as clarity. Imagine holding out your hand to a delicate bird. If your grip is tight and desperate, it flies away. But if you sit calmly, open and still, it may rest in your palm without fear. This is the way of all things we long for. When we chase from lack, we push them away. But when we anchor in presence, we begin to attract, not because we force, but because we allow. Modern life teaches us to run faster, work harder, do more. But Buddhism teaches something radically different. Return to yourself. Not through laziness or passivity, but through conscious presence. In that space, you stop chasing outcomes to prove your worth. Instead, you begin to remember that you are already worthy. This is when life shifts, when you stop pleading with the world to love you and start loving yourself instead. The world begins to respond. Because the vibration of wholeness is magnetic. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply radiates. And in that radiation, the right people, opportunities, and moments are drawn to you, not because you begged for them, but because you became a reflection of peace. Now take a slow breath, close your eyes, picture your desires not as mountains to be conquered, but as petals floating toward you on a still lake. Let them come. Not because you chased, but because you waited, rooted in self-trust. This is the wisdom of non-resistance. When the waters of your mind are calm, the moon reflects clearly. What you are chasing may not be the thing you need. It may only be the echo of a wound still asking to be seen. Instead of grasping for the outcome, turn toward the feeling. Sit with the part of yourself that feels not enough. hold it gently. This is where the healing begins, not by changing the world, but by tending to the cracks within. In Buddhist thought, suffering doesn't arise from the lack of things. It arises from clinging. The belief that you must earn what you already deserve keeps you bound to struggle. But when you begin to love yourself, not as a future version, but as you are now, peace enters. And peace is powerful. It magnetizes. It invites. It brings to you what force could never hold. The truth is simple. The more you chase, the more you tell the universe you are empty. But the more you return to stillness, the more life comes to fill you, not to fix you, but to meet your fullness. Think of it this way. You are not a void waiting to be filled. You are the space that everything longs to enter. When you embrace your wholeness, the world shifts in response. If your self-worth whispers, "I am not enough," life will echo, "You're right." But if your presence declares, even quietly, "I am worthy," the world listens differently. This is not wishful thinking. It is energetic alignment. Buddhism teaches us not to chase results, but to understand causes. The energy you carry is the cause. The life you live is the effect. Take a moment to reflect. What are you manifesting from, pain or peace? Because the universe doesn't hear your words. It feels your vibration. If you carry unhealed energy, even your most beautiful desires will be met with distortion. Like pouring water into a cracked bowl, it never stays. The joy seeps through your doubt. But healing begins when you stop hiding your cracks and start honoring them. In Japanese art, kintsugi mends broken pottery with gold, not to cover the damage, but to celebrate it. In the same way, your pain is not a flaw, it is your path. And when you love your brokenness, it begins to glow. So ask yourself, are you begging life to validate your worth, or are you standing in the quiet power of self-respect? The Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This is not merely a comfort, it is a truth that changes everything. Love doesn't just change how you feel, it changes what you attract. When you stop needing, you begin receiving. When you stop proving, you start becoming. Let your presence be a whisper of peace. Let your silence say, "I no longer chase, I welcome." The world does not respond to your hunger, it responds to your wholeness. And you are not too broken. You are simply waiting to remember that the light has always been within you. The moment you begin to truly love yourself, the world begins to change. Lesson 2. The silent gravity of presence. Have you ever noticed how the most powerful things in life rarely make noise? The stars don't shout, yet we gaze at them in awe. The ocean doesn't beg to be noticed, yet its depth commands respect. In much the same way, your quiet presence, when rooted in peace, has a magnetic pull far greater than any performance. In Buddhist philosophy, this is the essence of alignment. True power is not in the volume of your voice, but in the stillness of your being. When you stop reaching, explaining, convincing, when you simply return to your breath and exist without needing to prove anything, your energy begins to radiate something unmistakable. We live in a world that applauds noise. Loudness is mistaken for confidence. Constant movement is sold as progress. But beneath that surface chaos, the universe listens differently. It doesn't respond to how loudly you speak. It responds to how clearly you vibrate. Stillness is not inaction. It is deep alignment. A quiet confidence that says, "I am enough as I am." When your mind no longer races, when your heart no longer grasps, when your breath becomes your anchor, you begin to resonate with the quiet rhythm of life. And life listens. Close your eyes now. Let your breath flow like soft waves across a tranquil shore. There's nothing to fix, no audience to impress, just you, sitting in the sacred presence of yourself. That space, without struggle or pretense, is where true magnetism begins. This is not the kind of power that needs to chase. It is the kind that naturally attracts, because it carries no resistance. It doesn't plead. It doesn't prove. It simply exists, and in its existence, it glows. You may have wondered, why am I not seen? Why do my efforts feel invisible? Often it's not the effort itself, but the energy behind it. Where in your life are you being loud because silence feels too vulnerable? Where are you performing because simply being doesn't feel like enough? Sometimes the noise is not about expression, it's a mask for fear. But here's the shift. What if your presence, your stillness, your calm awareness was already enough to draw in what you need? In nature, the flower doesn't scream to attract the bee. It blooms, and the right attention comes. The mountain doesn't move to be noticed. It stands, and the sky wraps around it. Stillness isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's knowing that what is meant for you will find you, not because you fought for it, but because you became ready to receive. When you sit in your center, the world feels that, not through noise, but through energy. And in that space, pure, clear, and unshaken, people are drawn to you. Opportunities begin to arrive. The universe leans towards you, not because you demanded it, but because your calm said, "I am whole." Stillness sends the clearest signal. It tells the world you are no longer seeking to be completed. You have remembered your own worth. So remind yourself. Being still does not mean being unseen. It means being felt deeply. When you stop performing and start simply being, you become undeniable. The kind of presence that can't be ignored because it carries the echo of truth. The more you love yourself in silence, the louder your energy speaks. Lesson 3. The freedom found in letting go. Can you desire something with your whole heart and still be at peace if it never arrives? This is the essence of true detachment. Not a rejection of longing, but the quiet maturity to release your grip without losing your hope. In Buddhist thought, detachment is not coldness. It is reverence. It is the understanding that when we allow life to move on its own, it often carries us further than our control ever could. We cling to things, relationships, outcomes, identities, as if our holding could guarantee their staying. But the tighter we grasp, the more life resists. Fear, disguised as control, becomes a barrier to flow. Like trying to trap wind in a fist, we lose what we hold too tightly. Not because we didn't love it enough, but because we didn't trust it enough to stay on its own. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture a butterfly resting softly in your open hand. Your instinct may be to close your fingers, to keep it, to preserve the beauty. But instead, you breathe, you remain open, you allow it to stay or fly. Not out of apathy, but out of trust. Trust in timing. Trust in the deeper current that moves all things. This is not surrender as defeat. It is surrender as wisdom, as spaciousness, as faith in the unseen order of life. Detachment does not mean you no longer care. It means you care deeply, but without fear. It means you are rooted in love, not possession. The Buddha taught, you only lose what you cling to. It is not the act of letting go that brings pain, but the resistance to it. When you begin to loosen your grip, not to discard, but to breathe, peace enters. Clarity rises, and the universe, no longer obstructed by your fear, begins to respond in ways that feel effortless, graceful, even sacred. Ask yourself with tenderness, what are you holding so tightly that it can no longer grow? Perhaps it's a person, a dream, or the idea of who you think you must become? Can you allow space around it? Can you let it unfold without forcing? Real love does not imprison. Real presence does not demand. And when you release your need to control the outcome, you open the door to what is truly meant for you. You are not being asked to stop caring. You are being invited to shift where your peace lives. Let it live not in outcomes, but in the now. Not in arrival, but in awareness. When your joy is rooted in presence, not possession, you become unshakable. Free to want, but not defined by what you receive. Free to act, but not bound by what unfolds. This is the path of true inner freedom, where desire and detachment can coexist, and peace is no longer a condition, but a choice. So let go, not to reject, but to honor. Trust that what is meant for you is already on its way, not because you gripped it tightly, but because you created space for it to arrive. Let your heart whisper, "I am ready," and your energy declare, "I no longer chase, I receive." The universe listens to that trust, and when you choose grace over grasping, life reveals its quiet brilliance, one unfolding moment at a time. 4. Self-compassion is the quiet light that reveals clarity within chaos. In a world that constantly urges us to fix ourselves, to upgrade and improve at all costs, there's a gentler truth whispered in Buddhist wisdom. Healing doesn't mean becoming someone new, it means embracing who you already are. What if peace isn't about eliminating pain, but about softening toward it with open arms? So often we treat our inner wounds like intruders, rushing to hide them, mute them, or scrub them clean. But maybe those wounds aren't asking to be healed. Maybe they're asking to be heard. When you respond to your pain with warmth instead of resistance, you shift from survival into presence. You stop being your own harshest critic and begin to feel safe within your own being. That shift, so quiet, so subtle, radiates outward. Because when you become a refuge for yourself, the world senses that calm and begins to meet you differently. Pause for a moment, let your hand rest over your heart, feel its rhythm, and now gently remind yourself, even this deserves love, the part that aches, the part that regrets, the part I've tried to silence, all of it worthy of compassion. This isn't weakness, this is sacred courage. To offer kindness to the parts you were taught to shame is to step into your own healing power. Most people walk around with a war inside, a voice that constantly finds fault, pushes harder, and never allows rest. No wonder peace feels so out of reach. But as the Buddha taught, hatred never ends through hatred, only through love. That truth applies inward too. So ask yourself honestly, where have you been unkind to your own inner child? Is it the voice that says, "You should be over this by now," or the one that whispers, "You're not worthy until you're healed"? Now imagine what might change if you offered your pain understanding instead of exile. Could you sit beside your sadness instead of running from it? Could you see your flaws without letting them define you? Healing begins when we shift from fixing to simply witnessing, from condemning to truly listening. When you give yourself the same compassion you offer to others, your energy becomes gentler, your spirit more grounded, and the world begins to reflect that grace back to you. Not because everything outside has changed, but because you have. You don't attract joy by becoming flawless, you attract it by becoming whole. And wholeness isn't about being unbroken, it's about no longer abandoning any part of yourself. When you love even the mess, even the chaos, you begin to see clearly again, like sunlight quietly breaking through morning fog. Remember this, you are not too much, you are not too late, you are not beyond repair, you are simply waiting to be welcomed back into your own heart. Once you offer that love inward, the world slowly learns to mirror it back. Lesson 5. The universe is always listening. What if every person you encounter is simply reflecting back the tone of your inner voice? Not as punishment, but as a mirror. In Buddhist understanding, the world and the mind are not separate. The outer world doesn't just happen to you, it responds to you. It echoes your thoughts, your beliefs, and most subtly, your inner dialogue. You don't see people as they are, you see them through the lens of who you are in that moment. Take a closer look. The way you speak to yourself, the compassion or cruelty in your inner voice, sets a blueprint. If your self-talk is harsh, you unconsciously accept harshness from others. If you ignore your needs, you often find yourself surrounded by people who do the same. This isn't about blaming yourself, it's about awakening. When you truly begin to love yourself, not loudly but gently, you shift the energy of everything around you. Your internal standard becomes the world's external guide. Picture a still lake beneath a quiet sky. Now imagine your reflection not in your face, but in your voice, your thoughts. What are you whispering to yourself when the world is silent? Are those words kind? Or do they wound before anyone else even has the chance? Ask yourself honestly, how do I speak to myself when no one is listening? Because the universe is always listening, and it doesn't just echo what you say, it echoes what you believe about yourself. Self-love isn't about affirmations or surface rituals. It's the sacred act of refusing to abandon yourself. When you begin to honor your own boundaries, life starts to meet you there. When your internal voice becomes more compassionate, the outer world naturally follows suit. And if it doesn't, if someone still shows up with less love than you now give yourself, you will know and you'll leave, not out of bitterness, but from deep alignment with your truth. Here's a tender question to carry with you. If someone treated you the way you treat yourself, would you stay? Let the answer guide you, not to shame you, but to awaken you. Every time you dismiss your needs or silence your truth, you teach the world to do the same. But when you shift that pattern, when you begin to treat yourself with the same care you long for, you reset the terms. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you are worthy of. So speak to yourself with reverence, show up for yourself like you matter, because you do. And as your inner dialogue softens into kindness, the world begins to respond in ways that once seemed impossible, not with perfection, but with deeper harmony. When you change the way you speak within, the universe begins to reply, and the language it uses is love. Lesson 6. Peace is the frequency that transforms. Have you ever wondered why the calmest people seem to receive life's blessings without chasing after them? It's not luck, it's alignment. In Buddhist wisdom, stillness is not emptiness, it is receptivity. Just as a tranquil lake reflects the moon without effort, a quiet mind reflects life's beauty without struggle. Peace isn't passive, and it certainly isn't a luxury. It is power. True inner peace becomes a sacred invitation to the universe. It tells life, I am open, I am ready, not through force, but through faith. When the clutter of fear, doubt, and anxiety dissolves from your heart, space is created, and in that space, the right things begin to arrive, not urgently, not chaotically, but gently, like morning sunlight entering a quiet room. Picture yourself in a silent forest, no deadlines, no pressure, just the breath of trees and the hush of the earth. In that silence, something shifts. Maybe a truth rises from within. Maybe you realize you've been enough all along. In stillness, we meet ourselves without the noise, and that's where clarity is born. But here's the paradox. Many run from peace, not because they dislike it, but because peace removes the distractions that numb. Noise becomes armor. Busyness becomes an escape. We fill our calendars and minds to avoid confronting our own hearts. But peace, real peace, asks us to stop running. It invites us to see, feel, and soften. Those who walk with quiet strength are not untouched by sorrow. They've simply faced it, sat with it, made peace with their shadows. And from that depth comes a calm that draws others in, not because it shouts, but because it radiates. It whispers, "You're safe here." So pause and ask yourself, what might happen if I stopped pushing so hard? What if I allowed life to unfold instead of trying to control every moment? What if I trusted the timing and chose presence over pressure? Peace doesn't mean inaction. It means releasing resistance. It means creating inner stillness where wisdom can speak and life can flow. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to grasp for what's already seeking you. All you need is the courage to rest in your being, because in peace you become magnetic. In peace you rise, not through struggle, but through surrender. The most powerful frequency isn't noise, it's silence, rooted in awareness. And when you learn to carry that stillness, life begins to rise up to meet you, not because you chased it, but because you became the space where it belonged. So remember this, the soul that is still becomes a beacon. In your calm, the world begins to listen. In your peace, the universe answers, not with more noise, but with quiet abundance. Lesson 7. Neediness is the enemy of receiving. There is a quiet paradox in life. Often what we chase the hardest runs the farthest. And Buddhism reveals the subtle reason why. Clinging energy pushes away the very things we long for. Not because desire itself is wrong, but because neediness distorts our presence. It signals to the universe, "I am not enough." And in that lack, we repel rather than receive. Imagine holding tightly to a thick rope. Maybe it's a relationship, a goal, or even an identity. The more you grip, the more exhausted you become. Your muscles ache, your heart contracts. But now, picture releasing it. Not from defeat, but from trust. That's surrender. It's not giving up. It's creating space. And in that space, life flows again. Neediness and longing are not the same. Longing waits with open hands. Neediness clutches. It whispers, "If I don't have this, I am nothing." And when that belief takes root, it builds walls. Walls even love can't cross. We disguise need as desire. We chase approval and shapeshift to be loved. But love that asks you to become less is not love. It's survival. And the moment you believe something outside, you will complete you. You abandon your inner truth. But here's the shift. When you begin to trust your own wholeness, your energy softens. You stop begging life to fill you, and instead, you become full. In that fullness, you no longer scream your wants, you embody them. And the universe listens to embodiment more than words. True love doesn't plead, it doesn't cling, it invites and welcomes. It flows naturally to those who know they are enough, even without it. So take a breath. Ask yourself, what rope am I gripping too tightly? Can I let go? Not because I don't care, but because I finally trust. When you loosen your grip, life finds its way in. When you stop chasing, you begin attracting, not from effort, but from alignment. And everything you once pursued starts coming towards you, not because you forced it, but because your energy became clear, open and whole. Let your desires become gentle. Let your soul become spacious. Trust your completeness, and you'll watch the world reflect it back. Lesson 8. Become what you wish to receive. Have you ever paused and asked yourself, am I giving to myself the very thing I keep asking from the world? In the quiet moments of reflection, this question holds the power to change everything. In Buddhist thought, the world is not separate from us. It is a reflection, a mirror that quietly echoes back what we carry inside. We do not attract what we want, we attract what we are. So if we long for love, we must first become loving toward ourselves. If we seek peace, we must stop feeding our minds with chaos and comparison. If we desire abundance, we must release the tight grip of scarcity from our thoughts. Often we ask for the light, yet still hold on to the darkness we haven't let go of. We whisper prayers for connection while quietly turning away from our own hearts. Imagine, even for a moment, your future self. Not someone far away in time, but the you who already lives with clarity, ease, and truth. What does that self believe? How do they speak to themselves? What choices do they make every day? Choices you're still pausing to accept. That self is not distant. They already live within you, waiting for you to step closer and meet them. You may say you want peace, yet still walk alongside noise. You may long to be seen, yet hide your real self beneath layers of doubt. You may crave deep love, yet give none to your own soul. These opposites are not failures. They are invitations to awaken, to return to balance, not through judgment, but through compassion. Change is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you truly are, beneath the fear, beneath the noise. Every small act of self-respect, every moment of choosing truth over approval, becomes a thread that weaves your energy into the life you wish to create. The universe doesn't just hear your words, it feels your vibration, and your vibration is shaped not by what you wish for, but by how you live. Breathe and trust that when your inner world starts to match your highest intentions, life will respond. Slowly at first, then all at once. Not because of luck, but because of harmony. So start here. Be the love you are searching for. Speak to yourself the way you wish to be spoken to. Trust your own presence the way you hope others will, because when you live as the energy of what you want, you no longer have to chase it. It comes to you, drawn by resonance, not by desperation. You are closer than you think to the life you dream of. That life is already moving toward you, one inner shift, one sacred choice at a time. Bonus lesson: return to the self that was never truly lost. There is a quiet truth resting deep within the folds of your being, one that doesn't ask for change, only for remembrance. In the speed of life, we often forget who we really are. We chase worth through achievements. We search for love in the eyes of others. We measure our value by what the world praises. But the teachings of the Buddha guide us elsewhere, not toward the noise outside, but toward the stillness within, the place where you have always been whole. Imagine a lake at dawn, before the winds ripple its surface. Before any footsteps touch its edges, it reflects the sky with perfect clarity. That is your essence, clear, whole, untouched. You don't need to polish the surface of your life to be worthy of love. You only need to stop stirring the waters with self-judgment and fear. We often speak harshly to ourselves, don't we? As if we are something broken that must be fixed. But what if nothing about you is broken? What if your journey is not about fixing, but about unfolding? Like a lotus rising through the mud, not because it fights the dirt, but because it reaches for the light. To love yourself is not vanity, it is a return to kindness, to gentleness, to the sacred act of seeing yourself as the universe sees you, not as flawed, but as growing, not as lacking, but as learning. Try this. Sit in silence for a few moments each day. Feel your breath. Notice how it asks for nothing, yet gives you everything. That is love in its purest form. This is how you are meant to treat yourself, not with force, but with presence. This love doesn't shout, it doesn't chase, it simply exists. And when you learn to meet yourself there, without the need to be more or do more, you begin to live from your center, from the part of you that has never been afraid, never ashamed, never small. You don't need to wait to be enough. you already are. Come home to that truth, and you'll see that everything you were searching for was never outside of you. It was quietly waiting within. In conclusion, you were never meant to spend life chasing worth like a shadow just out of reach. You were meant to sit in your own presence, breathe deeply, and realize you are already enough. True transformation doesn't happen when you finally become perfect. It begins the moment you stop running and start remembering who you are. So let this be your turning point. Begin now. Be gentle with yourself. Return to your breath. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you deeply love. The more you soften inside, the more the world begins to respond with the same softness. If this message touched your soul, subscribe to Buddha's Eternal Wisdom. We don't shout, we guide. Each week, we open doors to calm, clarity, and timeless Buddhist insight that helps you grow, not through pressure, but through peace. Tap the bell icon so you never miss what your soul has been waiting to hear. And if this video has helped you, please like, comment, and share it with someone who might need this gentle reminder too.